In the 90s, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was everywhere.
Wolverine!
Fox Kids TV, action figures, web shooter toys, costumes, but most importantly, our video games. Since 1992, there have been dozens of Spider-Man games, over 30 of them in fact. These games cover a multitude of platforms ranging from Atari all the way to the modern day PS4.
Which actually explains a lot about Spider-Man. He's swinging through the city hopped up on smog.
I could say I've played just about every game to date since Sega Genesis. I mentioned in a previous video how much I love Maximum Carnage in particular, but there were many great Spider-Man games. On PS1, we had unforgettable titles such as Spider-Man. Oh wait, okay, this one's more unique. Spider-Man 2, Enter Electro. Okay, that's better. Not only was it cool to see Spider-Man make it into 3D gaming, but these games did a good job of making you feel like you were playing through a typical day in Spider-Man's life. It will look dated today, but they were solid games overall. Moving from side-scroller to full 3D, now into a complete New York to explore. Sharing this adventure with you was none other than Sam Raimi's best friend, Bruce Campbell, as the game's narrator.
All right, now let's get started. Now get the gum out of your ears and listen good.
Huh.
Well, good to see that you can follow basic instructions.
He's kind of a dick. The first Spider-Man movie game had a few boundaries. You always had to follow a level-by-level formula where you fight a villain or some enemies. Not until the second movie game did they allow you to fully explore the city itself. This would mark the first open-world Spidey game, and one of the best superhero games to date. Collectibles everywhere, a long story following the movie, many unlockable costumes and abilities. The game also featured randomized crime activities that could happen around the city, so you always really felt like there was something to do. But what about when that crime comes to a stop? Well, it's pizza time.
If I flip the pizzas, Mr. Aziz will flip out.
Like I said, there was a lot to do. The third movie game felt much less impactful and offered nothing new to the gameplay, just more of the same. Whereas Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time were cool standalone titles which had a really interesting story. Time had collapsed, which leaves you playing as different Spider-Men throughout their own dimensions. Every unique Spider-Man is voiced by one of the several Spider-Man actors over the years. It's got Christopher Barnes from the Fox Kids TV show, one of my favorites.
It's a lot of fun, it's creative, and to see that there's really sort of an overwhelmingly positive response to what you've done.
Even Neil Patrick Harris, known for his short-rolled MTV show.
When Spider-Man beats a boss, he can say, and that's that. Or he can say,
Who's having a good time? Raise your hand.
The following Amazing Spider-Man games sucked, and that was kinda it. Come 2016, we were shown the first glimpse of Spider-Man on PS4. For being a big fan, the trailer really didn't impress me. Something came off as really tight about the movement and combat. Made me really skeptical about the game overall. Not to mention it was revealed E3 2016 and ended up being shown each year since then. Were they just over-promoting the product because it was a Sony exclusive title? Or were they simply trying to sell a weak game so there's better numbers at launch? 2018's trailer showed the villains and I really disliked the art direction. I didn't like Spider-Man's voice actor being Sasuke from Naruto. They showed the famous Spider-Man Sinister Six basically, and they all look really, really weird, like all modernized and like high-tech weaponry and gadgets, like they're wearing like metal suits. It's just, I don't know, it wasn't the Spider-Man I know, so I wasn't really happy with it. But now that it's finally released, I can say I am happy to be pleasantly surprised at its launch. So in the first 30 minutes, I absolutely hated the game. Cringy, unfunny quips constantly being spat out from Parker. Movement seemed unresponsive and clunky. From jumping to dodging, even swinging around the city, it just felt so awkward. I was disgusted by how poorly it felt to play. But I'm so glad I stuck it out because over time, all of these complaints were resolved. Controlling the game just requires a lot of visible keys in order to feel more comfortable with them. Once you get used to the way movement feels, it ends up becoming a fluid, seamless motion. I think that's why the game is just so enjoyable. Web swinging never feels monotonous or boring because there's so many ways to maneuver. Web swinging, web zipping, bouncing off from a web zip, being able to run on the walls of buildings, and knocking yourself off of them as you web swing around them, it just looks and feels great. This limitless gameplay extends into the combat system as well. Combat was crazy annoying in the beginning. Early fights will typically feature 2 to 4 gun-equipped thugs, and the guns killed you in a hit or two. I felt helpless against so many firearms, but after experimenting with all the different actions you can utilize with your webs, it started feeling more doable. The combat can be as simple as just punching and dodging people, but there are several gadgets in the game that add more layers to each encounter. The way the webbing works is probably the most ingenious mechanic in the game. Once an enemy is webbed, as long as he gets knocked into a wall, he is knocked out of the fight. Because of this mechanic, you're able to disable people in numerous ways once you get used to it. All of the gadgets allow you to web them up to walls or on the ground in different ways, or knock them down or electrocute them. It just gives you so many options. Personally, I find myself preferring to literally kill my thugs. You tell me if this guy flying headfirst into the pavement is gonna land him in a jail cell or more in the county morgue. Now, we've had Spider-Man games directly follow comics, some that mimic movies, and some that have unique ideas of their own while remaining close to source material. This Spider-Man game took the Batman Arkham City approach in just about every regard. Several characters, villains, memorabilia, and references are present, while the art style follows Insomniac's own creative direction. This allows the devs full creativity and freedom when it came to the game's story or other elements. They basically have freedom for anything. To use any villains and any kind of side quest or optional activity, they could do whatever they wanted with it. All in all, I can say the game has a lot going for it. Several activities litter the map, from beat-em-up challenges, catching birds, to a variety of miscellaneous side quests involving a lot of Spider-Man's other villains. There's plenty to do. Even better, the game encourages you to be Spider-Man the way you want to be. There are over 25 costumes in-game to switch between at any time, each with its own unique in-game ability. There's a level-up system featuring about 20 different abilities Spider-Man can get, some augmenting the way he maneuvers to the defensive option he gets in combat from dodging. The game just has good pacing. All of those side quests have little tokens you get that you end up putting into unlocking upgrades for your gadgets or your suit. It didn't really get old the whole time I was playing it. I always found new ways to fight people or maneuver around the city that was exciting. And even if it wasn't exciting, I'm Spider-Man. If something ever seemed like it would get dull, I could change up my costume or start swinging differently, so it always ended up being fun in some way. Although I had some hiccups in the beginning, I want to say Sasuke did a really good job as Spider-Man.
Sad thing is, he'll probably get his own talk show for this.
I'm glad it all worked out. Spider-Man 2018 has been receiving exceptionally positive reviews, some even saying it's the best hero game ever made. It's safe to say all these claims aren't embellishing. If you like Spider-Man, Marvel, or superhero games in general, this is a must-buy. Even if you just enjoy the theory of playing an open-world action game like Assassin's Creed or Arkham City, this has all the same notes as those titles. I've played almost every Spidey game out there and can safely say this is worth a playthrough. I want to thank you all for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I make many thought-provoking videos and reviews such as this, so be sure to hit that notification bell to know when I upload.
The check's in the mail, baby!